Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP is asking President Muhammadu Buhari to urgently direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami and appropriate law enforcement agencies to identify and arrest the perpetrators and sponsors of attacks on the offices of the Independent Electoral Commission (INEC) across the country. In a statement, SERAP calls on the President to ensure that the perpetrators and their sponsors are named and shamed and properly brought to justice, regardless of their political affiliations.
Recent reports show over 50 attacks on INEC offices in several states in the last few months.
And to discuss some of these issues and more, we have been joined in the studio by Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative and Advocacy Center, CISLAC, Musa Rafsanjani. Musa, thank you so much for being here. And of course, we have to look at this big issue right now where SERAP is talking about something that Nigerians have always, raised a concern about with regards to the attack on INEC offices. Especially looking at the fact that we have just less than a few months to the next general elections. Talk to us about the implications of these attacks on INEC.
Thank you very much. All these attacks are carried out by those who believe that they have run out of ideas. They have run out of democratic ideas to be able to convince Nigerian voters to vote in their favor. Since they don't have any agenda, they don't have any program, it is assumed that they are not going to go anywhere. So the best thing they think they could do is to destabilize the electoral process and thereby making it difficult for us to be able to have free, fair, and credible election. But they are very tiny in number. It's just that the government, maybe appears not to really go after them. I can assure you that if the government is determined to push out those who are perpetrating this act of irresponsibility, it is very possible because every community, people know who is in that community and they can easily be, together with the security and community, they can easily be identified and actually punished for the atrocity they are committing. But I want to assure Nigerians that we cannot return back to any form of dictatorship, regime. We have suffered a lot under the military regime. We work very hard to return democracy, and therefore some people who are beneficiary of even democracy, they are the ones that are sponsoring this kind of irresponsible behavior. But I believe that many Nigerians are on the opinion that we need to have democracy in place. We need to have our election in place so that we can have new set of leaders with maybe better idea, with better plans to govern this country at local, state, and national level. So therefore, we cannot allow those few tiny ones who have lost ideas, who have any democratic ideal, who don't wish the country well, to just drag us back. Because what is the alternative of not having election or not having democracy? It means that you want another form of dictatorship that will make you impossible to even express yourself.
And if I may ask you, are you, upbeat, and are you, or should Nigerians, be hopeful with the assurances given by the National Security Advisor during the week in its meeting with security chiefs, with INEC, over this wanting destruction and chaos, being perpetrated on INEC and its facilities? Should we, feel rest assured?
I'm very confident if the Nigerian people collaborate with the relevant security agents to ensure that those who are engaged in this kind of violence are actually prevented from doing that. So what government needs to do is not just to make mouths, but it's also to work with the various community leaders, religious, political, ethnic leaders, and even political leaders to ensure that the citizens are not engaging in any form of violence, and those who are sponsoring this violence, the enablers, are actually brought to book, irrespective of their political affiliation. But once there is a lacuna, or there is inability from the government to deal with this matter squarely by incorporating, people, community, to be part of the, team that will work with the security by providing them credible information about some of this issue. It will be difficult, to deal with it. But if there's a political will to do that, I want to believe that it is possible, because Nigerians, they want democracy, they want change of leadership, they want better life, they want all this insecurity, poverty, and lack of, amenity, social amenities in the country. And it is only when you have proper election that you can be able to have the new leaders that can come to provide that kind of opportunities for them.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, Musa, at the end of the day, let's look at the fact that, like it or not, we've seen attacks on INEC in the last couple of months. Too many of them to mention. But most recently in Ogun State, where over 65,000 permanent voters' cards were destroyed in an attack on their office. We do have an election coming up in the next couple of months. Talk to us about how this would impact the elections, where people who are eligible to vote will be disenfranchised, not because of their own free will, but because their cards were destroyed. And the likelihood of INEC being able to replace it before the elections is not even guaranteed.
No, I think definitely INEC will replace this card, because the card, the stole or vandalized, can easily be replaced, because already the data, the information are all there in the central data, where these guys did not have access to it. So it's just a matter for the INEC to double effort to ensure that they reproduce those cards, and also for Nigerians to, as a matter of fact, quickly go and collect their voter register card, because some of these cards have been available for collection, but some people have not been able to do that. So that's why civil society, particularly Transition Monitoring Group, has been advocating to Nigerians who have registered to go and collect their PVC, so that they can have it and also keep it to themselves, because it is only when you have this card, no matter how much support you have for your candidate, if you don't have the card, you are not registered, you don't have the card, you will not be able to do anything. So I think we want to call on Nigerians to make sure that they collect their PVC and hold it religiously, because that is their fundamental right in order to move, or bring in new leaders.
Socioeconomic
exactly.
and political freedom.
Exactly.
Very well said. Let's look at the issue of transparency, corruption index, financing terrorism, and Nigeria is not doing well at all. 12th amongst 128 countries. What does this say, for our development, and how with this can we really attract the needed FDIs, foreign direct investments, into this country?
So you recall that Transparency International, we have been consistent on the fact that there's need for government to strengthen our institutional mechanism. There's need for government to block leakages. There's need for government to really take drastic measures in order to ensure that we prevent money laundering in this country. Sadly, that has not been happening. The ECOWAS report also indicted our financial system, that it is through our financial system that terrorism and money laundering are happening. So where is the central bank? Where are all the relevant financial institutions that they have allowed our financial institution to be used for financing terrorism and money laundering? So this is one lapses that we have, that government must rise up to ensure that we block that. Secondly, it is very clear that those who are engaging in money laundering are people who are, of course, that are linked to the power. If they are not linked to power, I'm sure government will pursue them and deal with them drastically. But because they are connected to power, they are hardly being taught. So therefore, this has a greater implication for our own respect as a nation and for our country. Just within the week in London, in a student's room, £8 million sterling was found.
Dollars.
This is a clear money laundering perpetrated by a big Nigerian, big man or big, woman. So this means that still our, financial institutions and the oversight that is supposed to be carried out by relevant agencies are still not happening. So there's a huge implication, and that's why you should not be surprised if Transparency International tells you that there's these gaps, and each year
how are you blocking the gaps in the London revelation of the $8 million dollars found in a student's home? Are you going to file an action in a London court to seek the identity, first of the student, two of whoever the launderer is?
So UK has its own laws, and Nigeria that has allowed its citizens to continue to carry out this, irresponsible behavior of money laundering. Nigeria probably is not doing much to block those leakages. The UK government, many civil society organizations, international civil society organizations, including some of our organizations that are working in the UK, we have been putting pressure on the UK government, and that is why UK government also has beneficial ownership register today. So for you to buy a house, before you buy a house in London, there must be all sorts of checks and all sorts of search on where you even got the money. Unlike before, when you just steal the money and then you go and buy a house in London, that's not the case. And this is as a result of the collective advocacy by many civil society organizations, and that is why they are finding it difficult. So now they are using students, to give them money to take it, to them. So we must continue to block those aspects too. But the government, the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria, must also continue to do their best to ensure that we block the leakages. Government must, not be talking about anti-corruption without really real fight against corruption, because this propaganda is not what we need. We need real institutional strengthening to make our institution, strong, to be able to prevent people from stealing such kind of huge amount of money that is meant. You can see
for our development. Imagine if that money was actually channeled into maybe like a primary healthcare center in a local government area in Nigeria. That would go a long way. But you know what? During the course of the week, Nigeria and 16 other African nations decided to cooperate to stop financing of terrorism and money laundering for regional stability and security. This was actually championed by the Financial Intelligence Units, that's the FIU.
Yeah.
This is now Nigeria realizing that we have a challenge here and seeking collaborations with other African nations. Do you think this would actually go far enough to help us deal with this endemic issue of corruption and money laundering in Nigeria, so that way that money stays here for the developments for our people?
Definitely, it is a right move in the right direction, because we need international cooperation and collaboration and partnership for us to be able to stem this kind of systematic corruption that is being perpetrated by unpatriotic Nigerians who are holding trust on public resources, but they decided just to siphon these funds. So I think it is a commendable, effort. Civil society, will always support the effort of government to ensure that we block leakages. We don't even want the scandal to happen. We want it not to happen, because the more it happens, the more you have to spend more money legally wise to pursue this. You know how much we have spent to go and pursue certain cases that invariably now they have been watered down because of the weakness in terms of really political will to deal decisively with the perpetrators of this action, simply because of political affiliation. So civil society will always support sincere effort of government to ensure that we rid out of this, cankerworm called corruption.
All right.
Thank you so very much, Amaka.
Musa have some Rafsanjani. He wears too many caps. We can talk elections and talk transparency and all of that. But for now, I would have to say thank you so much for joining us tonight in the studio.